Preparing to live stream. Closing this. And it's official, we're live!
Hello! Yay!
Welcome, Mermaid Electra. Mermaid Electra, so happy to have you.
Thanks for having
Happy
me.
to introduce you. Excuse my yelling, I have to.
This can take a moment.
Take your time adjusting to your water. I am absolutely loving your dress.
Thank you. Yeah, let's have a look at it in the water because it's really flowy. I have a story about this dress.
I love the fabric and the texture. It looks like it's definitely a lot of fun to be playing in the water, especially when doing mermaid photo shoots or all those other wonderful things.
Mm-hmm.
You definitely make me want to immerse.
What'd you say?
I said you make me want to immerse, so I had to like dunk. I could not see you playing in water without wanting to like, I have to dive in. This is my first time like doing a web camera chat with someone else who loves water as much as I do while they're inside the water too. Like I've never video chatted a girl where she's in the bathtub, or should I say the office.
Like, neither am I.
It's so cool
really
to play
cool.
familiar.
Let me just
take your time.
A little bit of have my mermaid statue and like a little candle there.
I have such a drawing to your tattoo. Is that something special to you, or?
It was in the past, but I'm actually thinking about getting it redesigned.
Cool.
Yeah.
So what would you like to introduce yourself as, or how would you like to express some things about you in this moment, sharing now that we are here in the sacred space?
Yeah, well, my name is Mermaid Electra, and also Electra Serena. You can find me on Instagram. I'm also on YouTube. I do like underwater videos and a bunch of other cool stuff. So yeah, I think it's it feels like it's been a long time coming, kind of resonating with this name that I've chosen, and like this persona kind of thing. I feel like I went through so many just, oh, that doesn't feel right, and like, you know, and then to come to Electra is a bit of a funny story. I remember when I worked in like fast food a couple of years ago, and this receipt order came in, and the name was Electra, like for a burger or something. Me and my co-worker looked at each other and we were like, that's a really cool name. Like, that's a beautiful name for a performer, a dancer, just like, I loved it. And I still have that receipt. It's totally faded. But that was years ago. And I think coming into where I am now as an artist and just like really loving the neon colors and like mixed with a dark aesthetic. I used to be very, very dark. So it's nice to be able to wear a blue dress and put some color into things. And I think, yeah, Electra just seems like this really like magnetic and like electric colors. And yeah, like,
I can't help but deeply resonate with your name, like after meeting you as a person, just how electrifying your personal magnitude is, especially like seeing how you operate in the water. And personally for me, just I see so many similarities. And like I was geeking out earlier, like I haven't found many girls I've talked to in like person, right? This is kind of in person, right? But like seriously, like no one's talking about this. And like, I mean, I have a lot of different theories, right? Like us coming from the water or like being in our mother's womb, like different ideas of how to make sense of this, if you will. But resonating so much with so many different things you're saying about the colors of spectrum and coming from a dark place and kind of expressing yourself in that manner. And then the other portals you're diving into as well are just, again, partially enlightening, because you're kind of reminded like, hey, other people are secretly, you could say secretly because you don't know them or you don't know what's going on, but other people are going through the exact same thing that you are or whatever. And like different people have different perspectives, and like it's kind of enlightening to hear like your story, right? And how you kept your receipt, like paint yourself like that, like this is who you are, like I still have this to this day, and this is who I choose to be. And look at the steps backwards, right? Like because of all this little person playing a joke or whatever ended up happening on the order that made this happen, or maybe it's their real name, or there's infinite stories of knowing that person, right? But like the other beautiful part again of like what's being bloomed from that like seed, and all of those things that happened in your past, or that lead you up to being the mermaid, mersona, personality, human that you are. Please keep channeling. I'm loving listening to you, and I have to be honest, I absolutely love your accent. I've always wanted to travel where you are. It's definitely like on my before I die list, like forever until it's done kind of thing.
Yeah, of course. Well, like, yeah, hopefully we don't have to put it off, and hopefully you can just come over and we can go swimming and everything.
Wow, Electra, you're really a genius knowing how to navigate these waters when talking, expressing about this particular topic of being able to see each other right now.
Let's just dive right in.
Well, if only we could, and there wasn't any rules and barriers to mermaids across country being friends. Hey. One day though, these rules will break and we shall high five. I like fins crossed kind of thing, but either way, again, like very grateful to have like this moment, this opportunity, this playful energy. It's just, it's been a very big blessing in my life to have you reach out to me and to like get to know you and these things. And I'm very grateful for your personal testimony and sharing with me. I'm very much so looking forward to what you have envisioned for us here in the community. When you agreed to be number 3 on testimony in a tub, and also being the first woman, like is like kind of cool, or like an accolade of some sort, right? Like the first lady speaker. But it's cool to like, find cool chicks and like have community again. Like I thought like this didn't exist where, someone would talk about these things. Like you see all these people who are doing it from a professional standpoint. I won't say any names, but they obviously love the water too. Otherwise they would not have made a job, a professional of getting paid to be underwater. And something I did want to cover in this live stream, I know I have mentioned to you before, it was of interest to me to have noticed that a lot of folks, merfolks, these people, these individuals who identify with the mermaid community, how common it is for sexual abuse or dissociating with certain parts of the self, and then choosing to create this identity and expressing this other version of self, and I've recently been gifted with this book called No Bad Parts, and it taught me about how, we all have these different versions of self that come on stage depending on who activates them. Like who I am with you is not who I am with anybody else, and no one else can see me like how you can perceive and understand the depths of my personal humanity, and like, again, like that just feels like a gift and a curse sometimes, right? When people can't relate. So again, like I really do hope to kind of cover that part, and I'd love to hear your own personal idea and how you personally feel about having like those different parts and being a mermaid, or being a, someone who dances in front of a crowd, or someone who enjoys maybe playing with fire. I mean, I have so many different variety of interests. I know not everyone's gonna like every little thing that I found fascination with, but I know that there are people who like can relate to like so many different topics of things. So it seems like we all have something for everyone, no matter if we think the other spectrum, like, oh, they don't need to know me, or they don't know me, but maybe we know each other a lot more than we're saying words for, kind of thing.
Yeah, for sure. I think this word compartmentalize has been coming to my mind like a lot recently. I tried to write about it, or I did write about it, just feeling like I was compartmentalizing myself as an artist, even though all my work was like entwined with one another. It was like, okay, this is the mermaid stuff over here, and then this is like the dancing thing over here. And it was like, it was really stressful, actually. I started to kind of, you know, in a way, compartmentalize myself as a human, not just as an artist. So it's really been like, I just want to say thank you, because I feel like I reached out to you and you just really, really helped me to kind of see that, like the book, there are no bad parts, and you know, you don't have to, you know, separate who you are. You don't have to categorize, or you know, like box off certain things. There's a time and a place for everything, for sure. But we're whole beings, and like coming back to ourselves, coming back to myself has been like a really amazing emotional journey. Yeah.
Remember, like to become one with you, like remembering yourself. I'm struggling to remember the exact line that you used, but that was my interpretation of what you're saying, like calling back all your pieces as they teach in Reiki, or you know, different shamanic practices, soul fragments. I mean, well, like sometimes I can be really also like triggered, you could say, by a lot of things that you're saying, because I'm like you could say stuttering, like I can't get the words out, of like I'm just like kind of shook and like almost mesmerized, partially in confusion, like why did it take so long to kind of like be here. But again, like you were mentioning something that sounded a little bit like divine timing, you know, that I showed up at the right time. And you could say the same thing was for you. Like it had been a long time coming, looking for mermaid, you could say, right? Like, where's the real mermaids? No, like not the mean sirens trying to drown me and eat me and stuff. Like, I need some friends. Where's my mer pod? You know? And like, if I had to be super fruitful, like if we could just all go for a swim underwater together and like move some of the pressure, like that kind of thing, instead of like beating ourselves up, or, you know, like swimming too close or swimming too far away from each other kind of thing. But I'm also like that too, you know, I swim away sometimes too, and the waters are murky, you could say. And we all have like that process of getting to know ourselves. And it sounds like you've gone through a lot of really transformative things. And I keep hearing like almost like this theme of death in your story, that like you have like this person that you are, that you've been, and then you're like, no, that's not me anymore. And then you're like kind of like evolving, and then you're also doing this cool stuff, which is kind of like playing all the parts at once, right? Like, oh, there is no separation, we're just always on stage, or like things like that. And I can kind of really appreciate that, because like for me, seeing you be like that is like, oh, this is safe, I can do this, I can wear a dress, I can express and perform, or just express myself in these ways without any shame or guilt or control or force. You know, this is allowed, without any like smushing of my existence, or like other way trying to get me to play a certain character in their life, like they want someone to pet their head, or I don't know what their dream is to use me for. What am I gonna do? I'll give you a high five.
Yeah.
Like that. Yeah. I also can't lie, like something else playing in the back of my mind is like some of the conversations we've had off screen. And some of them are around like honestly having like a camera and performing, like not really performing, but like not being shy who's watching us playing with like our cameras as kids, and kind of like going underwater and not doing it so much that like who sees this kind of thing, of just more so like let's play around with videography and like changing frames, or like, I mean, there's so many different ways to express that. And then the other aspect that I was feeling into is not just technology and the computer and camera way, but also I'm gonna make jokes about your new passion that involves a new currency, not the water. And like for me, as someone who has not yet dived down the rabbit hole in these ideas due to like past programmings, you could say, of like how would I describe this? Like in my mind, we have made up these imaginary ways of like, this is worth $2,000. Okay, now I just traded it, so now it's $3,500. Okay, now it's over here and it's this much or whatever. And like not just that, but like maybe I really need this. Like maybe this is a piece of bread, and maybe it's like not common where I'm at, and I need this, but like this doesn't last, right? Because it's like gonna go inside me, and then I'm going to like go to the bathroom, and like all these different transformative cycles, like the true value. Like something that I was thinking of, a way of trying to teach it is like pretend we have seeds, and like we have like our own plants of food, and then like it takes so much time to like plant it and listen to the plant and give it exact light or nutrients or every little thing that it needs to like really listen and obey, you could say, right? And then like the product that you get from that investment, like what is that really worth? You know, is the apple really worth $5, or is it like really $5 million? But we don't like see that because we don't remember like how many ancestors have carried on these germinating seeds or whatever. And like I feel that way about certain houses and different land, like back to this land is my land. It's like the same thing. The land to me is also this, and it also feels like it's really rich, like it has no real price, but there's like these illusions of worth and value. But like people aren't really putting value, like let's pay you because you're kind, right? Like maybe that exists in social credit or sesame credit, like other countries kind of thing. But like it feels like there's like other things that are to be rewarded in other ways, which seems like maybe God or the universe does kind of repay people in that way. But that's just like my personal framework, just so you have like a background about like that financial idea concepts of like where I'm operating from. Like if I have it, it's yours kind of thing. Like wanting to be able to come from that place of like, okay, I have 2 shirts. You need, like, I have more shirts obviously, but it's like that example of like, you know, if I am a minimalist and this is what I have, then like if you really need, like, here, you know, it's okay that you get it sweaty, and if it gets ripped and you use it or whatever, you go swimming in it, there's no rules, because like we have together. And like especially if you need it, like you're cold, right? Or like there's a real worth or value in the substance that we don't really see. And it feels like another part of me is like really mad that like we put all of our energy into making all these things and paying all these people like you could say minimum wage, or not even minimum wage, you know, like hurting people or like hitting them. There's all kinds of different things happening to make people like work, right? Like putting people in the fields to plant things and punish, and making that a punishment. Like I don't think that ever should have been a punishment, to take care of the lands and to feed people and stuff like that. It feels like it creates all these subliminal things, but it's hard for me to like I guess feel safe with attachment of like this is valuable, and then also like this idea of like stealing, you know, like where people are like you don't earn this is mine. And like not understanding, again, like my grandma like planted this seed for 5 million years, and then you extinguish this thing because you think this new thing is better. Like, and like you can easily destroy something that's taken forever to make, but right, like how long did it take to like evolve as human nature to make these things? So if only I could kind of understand some of the technologies that you're involved with, because like it seems like that might be the way the world is going, but also at the same time, from my understanding, like we've all worshipped and put value in this one type of currency, and there was only like 3 countries who didn't have it, and now we're inventing this new universal currency, and I'm starting to question, you know, like, well, what's going on with this? Is a sunflower not a universal currency? Like, is that not worth a trade of something, right? A kiss on the cheek, anything? Like, it's
yeah,
so
definitely.
like that's
I hear what you're saying. Yeah, I hear what you're saying. It's especially about like the amount of time it makes to take something and everything that you don't see right before the exchange, I suppose. And like the value, like exchanging value, not just in currency as well, but, you know, anything, the sunflower, the soil, you know. I think it's really interesting because, like you said, with stealing as well, and imagery and art, like I'm sure we've all got like, you know, folders of inspiration of like artists or people that, you know, but it's like, yeah, the idea of stealing as well. And I think this new movement, well, it's not super new, but like a lot of people still haven't heard about it as well.
Never thought about it the way that you're channeling right now, like subtly, like that this is art. You know, it's like a piece of art that cannot be destroyed almost. I mean, maybe like in a quantum computer, again, I don't know the back, like, you know, back screen stuff or whatever, your backstage stuff. But like, I appreciate you saying that, because again, I never like looked at it that way, especially like if I'm an artist and I'm saying, hey, this is my art, and like, hey, I'm trying to survive. Will you support my art? And then like people like transferring this back and forth amongst all my friends or something like that. Like I still haven't put my head around it. I'm sorry, you might have been like reading or you know a lot about this stuff, but like it's just, again, it's not something I have any education in whatsoever, but it is a very popular topic, you could say, all over every single country, because it is like an agenda to kind of, again, that currency. And speaking of the word currency, you made me think of this thing. Like I've been playing with words a lot. It's like kind of my obsession right now, if I'm honest. And currency, like how you're currencying.
Currency, like, yes. I get it.
My brain was laughing.
I love words like that. Just yeah, currency, absolutely. Yeah.
Feel free to talk about your personal knowing, or about your personal art, or anything like that that feels to come natural to you now that we're at this subject.
Yeah, thanks. The receipt that I got years ago with that Electra name, it's in this notebook, a very specific notebook, and it has all my notes about like crypto when I was first learning about it. I can't remember exactly. Actually, no, the first point of getting into it, because I was always really interested in cybersecurity, like online kind of encryption, and just like probably a thing to do with safety as well.
Yes.
For example, if we're using Gmail and we send out an email to someone, that's basically like sending a postcard in the mail. Like anyone can read it. The postman can read it, like the person who breaks into the mailbox can read it. Whereas if you're using a different service, something that's encrypted, it's like sending a sealed envelope. And it's not necessarily about like, if you've got nothing to fear, if you've got nothing to hide. It's more that, your information as a human can be, as we know, just like, I guess, exploited, monetized in maybe ways that we don't consent to, without, with ads and things like that. So that was like the basics of where I was coming from, where I was starting. And then I just delved into crypto, and it's so cool, like looking back at the thing now, because I've just put out my first collection, and it's like all these things coming together. I had, those mind maps of like where people have like all the lines drawn together, and they're like, their eyes are like so wide, and they're like, hey, listen to this thing, like that was basically me in my bedroom. I had like all my interests. I'm like, they have to link up somehow. And yeah, I feel like they just have now, it's beautiful how it's kind of turned out. I think the stealing kind of thing, like, how we like collect maybe like our favorite artists or like images, and it's not necessarily that, it happens, in like the physical realm as well. So I'd say like, go to a museum and take a photo of, this awesome painting that you love. And, if someone loves it enough, they're going to support the artist and they're going to buy it. And I think, there's like an argument that like digital art, or the new wave of digital art, is not, I suppose, like more fraud or not relevant, or just, there's going to be like more stealing, but I think it always comes back to like supporting the artist, and so much.
Yeah, it's very touching to hear you like kind of just speak from that level, as just an artist, and seeing the digital world, whether someone's producing themselves through Instagram or whatever free service, that they're still putting themselves out there, putting their personal energy out there, just like you were saying, like almost like energy vampires thing, like people take your energy and people can do it in the real world too. Like I really like that. It was almost like a joke, but it was like real. So, but maybe that's what made it funny, right? It's just like that beauty. And I also really liked, there's a version of you that comes on stage when you absolutely are in your teachings of like internet security, and really like, navigating those interfaces. Like I'm enjoying witnessing that, and like what you were saying, like how much it really lights you up. I think they use a different word for that, but it's like, I wanted to make jokes about like how you get electric and like you get electrified, like because you're so stimulated and you're like, yes, like internet, or like, yeah, all these different platforms and different ways. And I have like such pleasure in like having the different platforms too. So I really identify with that part of you that's like, yeah, I'm going to make art and I'm going to write and I'm going to share my writings here and I'm going to share this part of this here. And then this is coming to life. And that's so beautiful. And I'm appreciative too. Like you're basically sharing like your personal journal, right, with people right now, like about how like you wrote things in a book and you made very clear, specific things. Like I'm going to do this, this, and this. And then I want something to do with this. I don't know how this gets here to this technology stuff, but I'm really, really focused on this. And then just again, like how your journals kind of thing are about like maybe evolution, or like, I don't know why I want to say evaluated, because like you're maybe refining things, but it's basically adapting over time. And I've run away from journaling. My abuse, you could say, happened at an age when I was doing that nonverbal skill of expressing myself through, my so-called private journals. But I had family who would read my stuff, and then I felt like I couldn't be myself. So I felt like sometimes I was having to like not show my real feelings in my diary because someone's going to judge me and confront me after they invaded my space. And then that was just like kind of trauma for me. So I kind of just like ran away from that, but it's always been my passion to write. And I love writing people letters. I used to be that person, you could say, and I still kind of am with my friend Sarah, where we send like physical mail back and forth, written letters, even though we talk on the phone and Zoom all the time. Like we're still classic pen pals or whatever. And yeah, like so that's kind of like you could say murky waters for me. But I've recently learned that in order to heal trauma, like it activates the nonverbal part of the brain. So I basically have to do the thing that is the nonverbal thing, right? Writing and like activating those part of the brain to kind of go into those emotions and those different characters or self that came out while journaling and kind of creating daydreams into reality. But I have the same exact experience of you. You can talk to my mom. Like there's so many books that I've been playing with and writing with since I was little. And just like what you're saying, I wrote down this word, you could say Electra, right? I wrote down a word, and then years later, I'm like, oh, that's in there. And then like it re-expresses itself or it comes back to me again. Or like I'll randomly open to an old journal or whatever and then find an old memory of like, oh man. And sometimes it goes another way, if I'm honest, of like, oh man, I don't know that person, like, just like personally releasing things or whatever that like mad at the world or not knowing why I'm here, which might have been part of the reason that I dove into this idea of being a persona too. I can really relate to that part too. That's like a whole conversation in itself, is like developing our personas and like what we get out of this job of like performing in this way and doing this, especially from a professional standpoint. And professional only meaning that we're getting paid, like the professionals get paid to do the art of public performance or entertainment in a mermaid tail, holding your breath or taking precious underwater pictures, not like everyone can, you could say, look graceful, some people do this. And some people really love that, but there's also a whole nother like technique or style of artwork, like Hannah Fraser, I'm sure you know of. And, there's millions of other performers. Again, I'm not going to consistently drop names. I'm tempted to mention Mer Taylor. Okay, I'll say him. He's where my tales come from. I have great appreciation for his work and his mother and just like all of that stuff. Like no matter what, know how murky the waters get in this business world, you know what I mean? But I still have great appreciation for like these techniques, and it's so many different forms of expression of that, like what you're describing, like from being like a tail maker to like the underwater makeup to doing photography. I mean, there's so many different spectrums. I'm almost like overstimulated, like where to even go in our conversation, but I love to cover every single one of those things, like sharing your perspective and like having like space for people in the comments, or, other entertainers even, or just like people in the business, wherever way you want to see this, people who are dream to be mermaids, something else that came to mind is like, why aren't we doing video replies anymore? Like, hey, Mermaid Electra, I saw your video on testimony and television. I want to say this, this, and this, and then send it to your email and be like, hey, sorry, I can go like forever, but
I feel like there's so much. Also, there's just so much. Like I feel overwhelmed too. But I think another point that I wanted to touch on in terms of like the cyber stuff and like the digital stuff was a massive shift to like decentralized banking as well. I know we're getting like a bit like technical, but basically just I was like, when I learned about the whole banking system and actually recently experiencing like a little bit of, I'd call it financial discrimination in the banking system. It's just like a massive shift over to crypto because it's like peer-based, it's peer-to-peer. It's not, relying on these like corporate, centralized where, they control your money kind of thing. So I still don't understand a lot of it. I think it's like definitely like learn as I go along. But like with the electric thing, like I don't know, digital and like electronic thing, it really came up, I suppose, a couple of years ago. There was this philosopher that I was super interested in, Giles Deleuze. I don't know if you've heard of.
No, man, I have not.
Deleuze, but oh my god, yeah, some of his writings, man, is just like, especially his writings on liquid perception, just like blew my mind. It was basically in like really kind of complex terms, like from what I can understand of it, is like, so you walk out onto the street and everything's concrete, but you have this watery vision. You have like a way of perceiving the world that's like, this like train station that I'm in is actually, for whatever reason, it's actually a liquid. It's actually like an aquarium. I don't know if you experienced that, but just like,
it's a dream. Like it's a dream, like as if we're like, think we were in the waking state, but like really we're asleep, or like it's an illusion, some type of Maya. It's like not real, or it's imaginary, or like some people are saying that other thing, the technology thing of like where we're in a simulation right now, and it's something that happened, ages ago, like maybe they got their hands on Tesla's stuff, or, and that's already happening right now. We have no consciousness of it. That's why some of these, what would you call those movies? Like programming, like they put out these certain movies to help us think this way or see things from these perceptions. But that's my understanding of like liquid perception. But if you could please keep talking on what you learned from this person, you kind of have me hooked.
Yeah, definitely. There's this one video, I can't remember if he would have made it, but somebody made it as an example to their view on liquid perception. It was like a train station or this concrete, someone was working on like the railroad, and then like it's switched to this underwater video of like this person with a fabric, and they were dancing, and it was complete, like for some reason, like it was from the state of like a solid to liquid, and it was like the same state. It's so cool. And I really, really got into it. I think I experienced it for the first time when I started actually riding my bike in the middle of the night in like this city where it's really, really busy. But at nighttime it was just completely like empty. It was just completely just like, that feeling when you're like just there in the street and it's just empty. So it was like that. And I was on my bike and I had my camera and I was just like riding through the streets, and it felt like, and this was before I had my first mermaid tail, and really started working with underwater film, but it felt like I was like swimming in the streets, but I was like not even in water. It was like this air experience, like completely. Oh, and I feel a really relevant thing to say also, like in Greek language, and this is like, I don't know, mermaid mythology really comes into it. Like the Greek language, the same word for tail is the same word for wing. What is it? I can't actually remember. Like tail and wing are like the same word. And so, originally like the sirens, where they would, they're like these bird women, right? I don't know if you've heard of that, like these bird women on like the
Anunnaki.
On the rock.
I have always made jokes how like there's so many stories of people, and I've been making this joke since I was a little kid, before I've ever experienced any sacred medicine with any professional around the world. Okay, but I said it's not like, I'll try to do the joke. I was just a kid. It was like, there's not a coincidence that everyone who takes these I want to say hallucinogenic drugs, but that's not really what it is. It's yeah. And I hate that they call them that, because are they really hallucinogenic, or are we seeing things as they are? But I'm mentioning, like, before I've ever experienced those things, like I'm kind of like moving away from where I was, because I feel like there's so much shame around this topic that, like, again, like not being able to be free, you could say, to have these discussions. Could you remind me of the initiation of my response? Oh, I got it. Sorry, the bird women. God bless you. God bless you. Okay, dude. So like, I made this joke when I was like 9, 13. Salud. God bless you. My joke was like, there's not. Drink some water. I'll join you. I'll take a there before I say my really silly joke from childhood.
I get really dehydrated in the bath, so I'm just gonna.
I'm with you, sister. My joke was like, it's not a coincidence that everyone who does this sees the same thing. They all see the bird people. Like that was my joke, because when I was young, I was really into like planetary stuff, like this idea of Planet X, Nibiru, and the ideas of putting our consciousness on other interfaces or other planetary systems, and just like infinite curiosity of knowing like, what am I, and kind of like exploring all of those depths kind of thing. So that kind of like what led to that. I was very obsessed as a child with the idea of the Anunnaki and what that might look like. And as I've grown older, it has like kind of changed picture. Like there's a lot of language about like light language or like star seeds or things like this that are kind of used to kind of mention those Akashic records or like holodeck or like the aspect of past lives and all those different dimensions that have just been on people's minds for like generations, possibly, especially since it's actually in so many religious scriptures, right, of like our fathers and what our fathers have done for us, and that kind of being constantly shared. Wow, like again, like the mesmerization. Please keep sharing, because you were accessing some really amazing frequencies. If you can return to where you were when you first brought up the bird women.
Yeah, the bird women, and just like they're sitting on these rocks, kind of like at the shore, and I don't know, there's like these stories of their cry, or like their noise that they made, and like and it was, I don't know, these sailors would have to put beeswax in their ears so they wouldn't hear them and crash into the shore. And I still feel at the same time that there's definitely like mer people at the same time. I don't think it was like an accidental language like mess up in like writing a book where it's like they have wings and now they're under the sea. I think it's like simultaneously still really interesting as well. And just like back to the siren thing as well. The siren as a word has just been like phenomenal. With the past few years is like decoding the whole siren word. It's the dark mermaid that's kind of, maybe a little bit vengeful, maybe like a little bit seductive at the same time. So it's like, it's that aspect, and it's also the siren like on an ambulance, like a police car.
Yes, thank you. Yes.
Like a flashing, and it's also this like danger call. It's like, oh, there's an emergency, or like, what's the emergency, or what's going on, and just like the noise of it too. Like it could be very, you imagine like the mermaids, calling you in, and it's just like this haunting, like, I don't know how they sound, but you know what I mean? Yeah. So that was like, there was a point where I was really obsessed with like, like the siren thing. I wanted to get like I don't know, an old ambulance siren or something, and just like stare at it and just like, oh yes, that was the other thing that I don't know if you've seen The Lighthouse, that black and white film that came out, I think, I don't know, was it 2000 and recently, like the past few years. Oh, dude, you have to see it. It's a black and white film. It's got Robert Pattinson in it, which is actually really, really great in it. I don't want to spoil it, but it's about these two lighthouse keepers. And it's like such a beautiful film. There's a mermaid in there too. But yeah, without spoiling it too much, they just like get obsessed with who's going to keep the lighthouse, like who's going to be like up the top and like doing the light kind of thing, or running the I don't know, running the electronics like on the top floor or something. It was like this massive secret, and they had these fights like, no, I want to go and like do the light now. And it's like, you can't do the light now, like it's my light. And they got really like possessive, like super just like fighting over it. And it was like an extreme isolation movie as well. Like it was yeah, and they're just alone on this island as well. So isolation kind of started to affect them, and just, yeah, the obsession with the light. And I really saw it as that was the siren as well. Just they're totally obsessed with it. You know, you can't look away. You're just completely drawn to it. So that was an amazing film. Yeah, it was like around the time of when lockdown started too, like isolation with everything that's happening. And yeah, I really felt that it resonated with my work at the time. I want to talk a little bit about the isolation tanks. I think, yeah, Trina, we've talked about it before a little bit, and just I get really excited about it. And yeah, there was no like swimming pools for me to go to at the start of lockdown and really explore this like underwater stuff. So I booked an isolation tank, sensory deprivation tank for an hour or so, and took my camera and like my bag of weird things like my fishnets and like my rope, and just like, don't look in my bag, it's nothing sus at all.
I can explain.
Yeah, I can explain if I really have to. And yeah, so I started making like this really cool work, just like being completely buoyant in the water, just felt completely safe. Like it didn't feel like I was gonna, you know, I don't know, get stuck or like, you know, be in like submerged in a bad way, because the water completely held me. So I made like some really cool video. I'd still love to do one again, just like, I don't know what would come of it if I did it again. There was one with these LED lights, color therapy lights, and there was like this green water and this red water, and that was really fun to play around with too. Yeah.
It sounds like you have some hunting you need to do now that you're traveling, and to find some other couple different locations that you can, like what you're saying, experiment with and explore yourself and stuff like that. That sounds really, really awesome. Like my inner siren is definitely screaming right now, because mine did not have color changing lights that I can remember. I think maybe it had like just one green light, but maybe I'm wrong and remembering wrong, because I've only had like one experience, but it was really cool. But for me, it was really hard to relax like the first hour, to be honest. Like I think I had 90 minutes, and just I remember like almost the whole time I could not like relax, and I kept touching my eyes, I kept moving around and playing too much. I couldn't just like float there. And like that in itself for me is like a meditation. So to kind of like challenge myself and measure myself in that way of like, can I get to a place where I can just, you know, just stretch out, or like the deprivation, like allow myself to immerse in that, you know. I have to also compliment you, because like when you're speaking, like, I don't know if it's like a personal communication skill that I have, or if it's like your personality, but I feel like I become really immersed in what you're saying. Like I get like excited when you get excited, or like I can really relate to some of the stories they tell, or at least like the emotions or the vibes that I get. And I'm like, yeah, I want to ride that wave of emotion. Like that's, yes, give me more of that. Like that's a medication, or like what you're saying, like feasting upon that energy of like, yes, that is delicioso, more. It's just amazing. I do kind of like have ideas of like personal questions of like what is making your experience like there as a siren like be so difficult, or like you know, ways that like people can support, or both of those things, you know, like what are your rough waters right now? You could say, you know, you're struggling to find like locations that are really resonating since you're traveling, or like, is there any parts of your journey that you feel comfortable sharing?
Yeah. What is it about again? Like what's difficult about being the siren at the moment?
So the trigger word that has me activating is safety, to be honest, and how much I'm resonating with like these ideas that I've been in places where there was not safety. And like I hear you saying the common theme of creating safety and feeling safe to like express yourself and having safe platforms, and then being equally energetically exchanged, like in the ways that you're being taken from, right? Or like the exchanges that are happening, people are absorbing your content or stealing it or pirating it, you know, water there. But like I guess like to rephrase the question is more so like, I want to make another joke of like, in what ways are you underwater? Or like, like, or what are your struggles there in, your country that you're in right now? And like, what are some, like waves you're up against or things that you're like currents you're swimming against or things like that. That's the first part of the question. And the second part of the question is like, what are some ways that you'd like, support, even if that's just like someone listening and seeing you as you are instead of like perceptions, like that liquid perception. I would love to get back to that subject too, because that is also like an infinite topic of just like out of body experiences, lucid dreaming, and just all of those really amazing things that I know we've already had discussions on. But again, like welcoming to the public the idea of these concepts, if you have not heard these words, like researching lucid dreaming, or like, how Electra is telling the story, how she like wrote down this idea and this dream and how it came to life and like things like that, and I'm sure like you've had actual dreams that are like similar, that are like, wow, like I saw this, or I've held on to this vision and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I think, the currents that you're talking about, like a bit of like almost like a riptide, like in the waters. Definitely I can see an evolution from the past where like a big focus of my understanding of the world was like through pleasure and pain complex, and I was like really, really intrigued with it. And also that philosopher talks about that as well, just the early writings of Seisha and Masoch. And I suppose probably coming from like a dark place, like, you kind of forget about the pleasure side sometimes, and that we're allowed to enjoy life, and it's, meant to be like beautiful and exciting. It's not always dark and like painful, but that's really where I was coming from in my past, I suppose. And I guess like kind of unpicking or untangling those like kind of habitual thought patterns around that too, and like how it affects, day-to-day life now. And I'd say that's probably still just something I'm working through as well. And then also just to feel there's like a massive kind of current of feeling like maybe not accepted, or even before I had tried to be a part of a community, just like taking myself out of it because I had these kind of, I don't know what it was, like beliefs or just experiences that was like, this is, I can't be fully myself here. I think just like I'm kind of looking forward to challenging those ideas, like within myself and also within, who else is going to be accepting to be challenged at the same time,
And to remind you of the second part of the question, like what are some ways that like people that have discovered you here that they can support you, or just like even I can support you, or like what are some ways that like if you can choose how people show up for you next, like what are you calling in, what specifics are you looking for, like someone who's like a cheerleader, or like I don't know, there's multiple different things we could call in, right? Like a financial supporter, or people who like can like help us like navigate those waters, right, of that stuff, or trying to think of other ways. There's obviously the physical support, right? Like if you're involved in your local community and things like that, maybe you have, that's why again, like what are ways that you can think of that like you will welcome in, or that you're calling in, and those things?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I like thinking about ways that I can be supported, and like my intentions and my needs are like super exciting to think about, and just like a bit overwhelming, because it's hard to say sometimes what you want. But I really love to say that you can support me just through my artworks, honestly. Like if even financially, and to be able to gain a kind of a community. That's really what I'm after, like a community, some people that I can interact with and build relationships with, like really good energetic exchanges would be awesome. And just so I can continue to do what I love to do. And I hope people see that it's what I love to do. I have really, really big plans for the future. And I think a lot of it involves like giving back as well to community when I'm at that stage, where I'm a bit, you know, more stable with certain things. And yeah, it'd be awesome just to get a flow going, like get an input and an output as well. Like not feeling like I am always the one outputting, like outputting content, or, you know, outputting just who I am. To get some like input would be, yes, like, you know, not like this is what I want you to do, not that kind of input, but more that like, energy.
Like support instead of commanding you, telling you go scuba dive over here, do this. Unless like they're paying you for that job, like, hey, I'm gonna hire you for this underwater position and you're gonna drown in the movie or whatever you're willing to agree to. So also I wanted to mirror back to you that like, so I'm really into the love languages. I just recently read the book, and it sounds like you like two different things. And like, I don't know if you're familiar with like all the different ones, but basically one of them that you mentioned is gift giving, basically. And I feel like that ties in with the other one, which is like the gift of like service, which can also be considered quality time as well too. I mean, those are like three things that it sounds like you've really mentioned, like the gift of like them serving you, because your choice of receiving your love for your work is that they are just buying the content. Like they're not even paying you hourly every day or whatever. They're just every once in a while buying this piece of art, or like maybe hiring you for a custom underwater photo shoot, or maybe something in your technology world. Maybe they want to Zoom with you to ask you questions because they don't know what they're doing, and and you know what you're doing. And then the gift language is like what you're saying, like the input, right? Like we don't always know like what someone else has to offer, right? And maybe like they're guided to give us this book or to give us this thing, and we don't know, like either party doesn't really know what's involving, but it's guided to come to us. And sometimes later on it ends up being like, oh wow, this all really makes sense, or wow, I really needed that thing and I didn't know I needed that thing until you gave it to me, and then like that makes my life better. Maybe it's like better underwater equipment, or maybe it's like other people that are in our industry or whatever are interested in what we are, that we can co-create and make these things that we want to do. Because it's kind of hard sometimes, right? Like being your own like producer and doing everything your own, like it can be really awesome to kind of have a team. And then something else that was fascinating, you know, you were talking about things that you were struggling with, and I couldn't help but think about your other comments about the liquid perception, like how you're talking about how you have these belief systems about yourself, right? Like casting yourself out from the mermaid community even before even trying to dive in thing, right? Like those liquid perceptions, like we think like, oh, they're not going to value my artwork, so why am I going to put artwork out there? They're just going to take from me and take from me and take from me. And sometimes maybe when we do that, maybe that's what happens, right? Because we're like, oh, they took what was free. And then like maybe we can also relate to that too, of like, oh, hey, this person put out this free video how to learn how to make a mermaid tail. I'm going to watch this 10 times until I do this, you know. And like maybe they don't get like $1,000 or whatever it was worth it to us to make the trade and to receive the things, you know. So that's something to like think about, of like, you know, I guess like your inspiring thoughts of like all those people, even if it's like bad situations, or, you know, even if we say it's bad or those things, you know, how they like really had some type of richness or currency, as we were talking about, like has superior value, like pain and right, like, and pleasure, like both of those things are like literally like immeasurable of like their worth. Like if you're really struggling with a certain feeling of like sadness or being mad or feeling crazy in your emotions, right? Like we can't buy our peace. Like we can't just like settle down. We can say a story that if I had all this money, I would be peaceful, but it's not true. It's like we have to clear our mind first. And like no one's gonna pay us to do that, right? Like there's like a joke there, because like I was just talking about how if we like don't believe in ourselves and have the value, right, we can't have like the receptive mode or whatever to get the equal opposite of like saying, hey, I want you to value my art. But if we're saying, hey, you're not going to value my art, like we're kind of putting out that and not letting ourselves receive, because we're like, nobody can see this, you're not going to like it anyway. Or like, or whatever make believe. But I have definitely gone through those experiences and like just questioning, like, am I going to be valued now, or is it only when I'm like not here anymore? Or like, you know. And there's also been a way that I can also relate to what you're saying is like there's been a lot of like having to go within and be with myself and really find ways to like really love me, like like loving me, meaning to me, like there are parts of me that still cry out, right? Or is the siren shrieking and calling for my attention. And sometimes it's hard to listen to the stories or those liquid perceptions, as you're saying. And then like, for me, I'm hearing like from you sharing your story that I have to start writing again. And it's going to be hard, but like, I think writing down the things that I'm talking about will help me like be able to look at it like almost in a physical dimension, and then be able to like break it down and fix what I'm trying to see differently, you know, like maybe saying like the clear statement, like maybe I'm gonna be like a shadow or whatever and say like a really shadow worky one, like I have no worth, you know, like writing something like that down, and then like maybe rewriting it is like I have worth, and then like trying to clear the charge of being honest of I have no worth and like nothing matters kind of thing, and then I am worthy, or the flip side to that, and trying to find a way in my body that feels good, that it's true, that I'm feeling like valuable or worthy or whichever word. And sometimes it can be like dark or triggering or bad or unpleasant to like kind of notice like where I'm at, like that, like, oh man, I'm thinking negatively about myself, or like I'm not getting close with my friend because I'm scared and I'm pushing them away because I'm scared of them not liking what I don't like about me. And then some other feeling that I had that I've been wanting to share with friends is like sometimes I'm wanting like almost like acceptance, but I also don't want acceptance. Like I don't want you to tell me it's okay for me to feel bad, that I want to make something up. Like maybe I want to say like I'm self-conscious that I love the water so much or something like that. And like instead of you saying like maybe that's a bad example.
I know what you mean. I think I know what you mean. It's
like a sugar example. I'll just,
yeah, like don't worry about it.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry, my ego is so loud. I guess like the part that I'm trying to share is like the only way that I can think of to share is, oh, I want to copy you so bad. Like I've been wanting to go underwater. Can we have like a moment of just dumping? Oh, thank goodness. God bless you for loving water too. I was just gonna say the part about like where like if I'm doing a bad thing, like if I keep over talking you or whatever, or if I keep eating sugar, like I don't want you to say it's okay. Like I want you to hold me accountable and be like, okay, we're gonna practice communication and taking turns, or like the other way of like, Trina, you don't like not I don't want to be really punished for eating sugar, but like I also don't really want to be supported that like I'm doing this thing that is really causing damage to my nervous system and stuff like that, you know? Like I kind of want the other way of saying like, you can do this, I beat my sugar addiction, or like things like that.
The rewiring thing you're talking about, like especially with the writing, I totally understand. Like, man, I go through the same, well, not the same thing, but similar thing with writing. Sometimes it's just like, for me at least, it's like, what's the point in like handwriting, or like sometimes I type things or even talk to dictation or turn on dictation and just talk and I'll come up in text, because it seems like the less laborious way, because you know you have like a million thoughts a minute and then you're trying to write it down and it's like, oh fuck, I mean like this cursive writing, right? Cursive writing, and then just but yeah, I used to do that thing of like a table. It was like a rewiring thing, so it was like I'm no good at this. And then it takes a bit to, you know, write down the complete opposite, even if you don't think it's true, to write down the complete opposite of it. And yeah, even in the moment when you're thinking something that's really negative, it's sometimes a bit hard to, you feel like you're pulling yourself up, or just like, let me just write it down. So it's like not, you know, inside me kind of thing. I used to do like set alarms, like at random times of the day, like a self-awareness check-in alarm. And anytime that it went off, I would write down exactly what I was thinking. And it would be such a random thing. And I'm like, wow, I would never be aware that I was thinking that. And then that's like a really good rewiring tool. Yeah.
Oh, I just like, again, I keep feeling like so mesmerized by having like your contribution to my life. And I have got an inspired question. And again, if I ever ask any questions that you're like, navigate away, you know, just feel free to be like, no. But the question came up is like, Have you ever thought that you would maybe like publish some of your work or whatever, since like you're like a kind of avid writer? It sounds like you've been writing for years and like this is like kind of a secret passion. So do you think that like it would ever come out of you or whatever to like give birth to something like that, like where everyone can hold and like hear your story or whatever? Maybe you have fantasy stories or I don't know what kind of public book, but have you thought about that?
Yeah, it was actually pretty recently actually that I was like kind of in the middle of a breakdown moment, like a really like almost rock bottom, like bottom of the sea, kind of like no oxygen or anything there. Like marina trench kind of like spot in the world. And I was like, you know what, I have to write a book. I'm just like, I made a note and I was like, there's like so many correlations or timelines matching up. And if I don't capture it now, I'm going to forget what I'm thinking. I'm going to forget my experience. But yeah, I definitely have like some other ways. Like I really like doing poetry. I was really into like slam poetry, like in the past, like political kind of stuff, or just like really like I really love the sound of words and just like I'd love to do more slam poetry or just yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Do you think you'll ever release that on some of like your media platforms where you have your videos? Do you think you would ever do that? And I had like this hilarious thought of like, what if you did slam poetry against mermaids? It's like sirens versus mermaids.
Oh yes, not like a rap battle, but almost like a rap battle. Yeah,
like
right.
spoken word, right? Like Mermaid Electra spoken word, like bringing in like fire and electricity and like yeah, like how you're already doing like we're doing a lot of. I've noticed we've done like a lot of wordplay, you know. Like I know we've discussed this in the past, but the fact that it's actually come natural saying like water type words while like in the tub. Like I just found like touch like I'm so touched by that shit. Like to me it's hilarious. Like I feel like I can't even. Oh god. I didn't know like you had like an inner comedian. Like this is my first time hearing this about you, that like that like you know you have like this different version of yourself, and that ignites another fire in me. Like what is it in us that brings out that part of us that we can show that other part of ourselves, right? Like where we speak one way to this person, but maybe we'll write a different letter or a different tone or perception to the other person. Like that's kind of moving and inspiring in itself.
Yeah, I had these thoughts early on. The first couple of YouTube videos I uploaded, I'm like, I'm just gonna break the ice, you know, like just upload whatever. It doesn't have to be good, like it doesn't have to be anything, you know, it can be it was really meaningful. I was just like, I gotta do it, like just start doing it. But sometimes I look back and I'm just like not that it's bland, but I was definitely looking at it through a bit of like a blinders up kind of thing. Because if I look back now, some of like the really simple swimming videos where you can't really see much at all, I just imagine myself like doing a voiceover of like this slam poetry and just like glitchy editing, and like that's like who I am. That's like me. But you know, simple swimming videos, just you know, it's beautiful.
Okay. You talking makes me feel like I have no idea what slam poetry is. Please tell me what slam poetry is and see so I can see. I'm sorry.
I feel like you're calling me to do like an impromptu slam poetry. I'm just like,
yes. And here's your mic.
Oh God. Let me try and remember like an old kind of, because it's very I'm not experienced with impromptu slam poetry, but if I feel like I'm pretty good at quickly writing something out, but it's more kind of like it's really punchy, you know, like poetry is like really, you know, flowy and like,
so it's not like insulting people, like that's not what it is.
It could be, but it's not exactly like, it's not defined by insults. Yeah.
Okay. That's what I was just wondering. I was like, is that all? Because like I was wondering like why is it called slam poetry? Like is it fast or like are they slamming someone down? You know?
Yeah, almost. Yeah, sounds like a slam dunk. It's like when you hear the right word impact with another word, it's like that's a slam. Like I'm trying to think of an example. Like I can't think of an example.
Yeah.
It can also like the way you say it, like the words don't even have to sound nice together. It could be I'm going to the bathroom. Now, I'm in the, I don't think actually the words do matter. The words matter.
Oh, that's amazing. I've always been into poetry too. Something I grew obsessed with was honestly playing with haikus and just like doing really silly, meaningless things. So that's beautiful. I'd love to like off the record possibly show you one day. I have like this old journal that's comes from elementary school of like I had to have like maybe it was middle school, you know, something I have no exact memory, but basically childhood school where I had to do a project of doing different styles of poetry, and I have a lot of like really dark poetry, you know, and it'd be kind of an honor to like share that with you, you know, and hear some of your stuff in trade or honestly even other ideas that come to mind is like positive criticism kind of thing, you know, like where you could like maybe I can re-edit or like rewrite or if you wrote it together, like working on that same concept, because maybe when I was a kid I didn't have like the right words to kind of express myself or whatever. Yeah, it feels like there's a lot of play energy there, and I like that invitation.
Yeah, definitely. I'd love to see some of your stuff if you're up to sharing it. That would be awesome. I think yeah, I wrote songs when I was little. Just some of them actually like really dark, like really dark songs. And some of them just like I have one cat, I have 6 chickens, but just even the energy of writing songs and like that play is like I think really, really valuable.
I'm so moved and like hypnotized right now on the focus of like honestly like the dark art and kind of how like we're talking on those parts of self being able to come on stage through having like these different mediums of expressing the self. And I have like also lit up while you're talking, imagining like this like nonsense joke of like, hey, I'll show you my scars, you show me yours kind of thing, or here's my wound, you show me yours. Because like you're talking like similar stories, you know, of like channeling those songs of the heart that are kind of coming onto paper and that are kind of captured forever, you know, for us to reaccess those neural pathways or those information. And something else that you just inspired a thought of is like safety again, of like I guess having someone with you, like if your work is dark and it's hard for you to go back to that place, right? Like having someone else that can kind of like relate and share that stuff. And part of also what you're saying is making me think of like, you know, like I guess like I want to say back in the day, I don't know if these things still exist, but like I remember like hearing more people talk about like book clubs and like sharing like written words and stuff like that, and us sharing our journals together. And now there's like it's all being switched digital kind of thing, right? Like we're not having a lot of physical stuff to pass back and forth. We're also not like really gathering the way that we used to, of like sharing, singing songs together, or even building a fire and like basic human things. And I feel like we're kind of getting really out of touch of that. Like I have a lot of value over our ability to connect over like countries away and to have like our friendship and our communications. And again, like expressing ourselves and being able to make money and survive in this world in different ways without having to like go through certain things that other past people have. But also like I have, like you could say, admiration and love, like just for basic things like being able to run and swim in the water and just like kind of being free in the wild kind of thing. And it's kind of harder for me to find like the balance of like which way would I really enjoy to see this world evolve. You know, I definitely don't think I want like a concrete jungle like Babylon or complete technocracy. You know, I would much prefer us to like value like what's providing our oxygen and like feeding us, and just like how it's actually changing us as a species depending on what we eat and how we program ourselves. And like part of me wants to get away from like that mass production stuff. Not that I don't want everyone to eat, but also I just don't feel like for all the money and things going into like industries of like factory foods, like I feel like again we could like grow things in contained environments now where we can control temperatures. I mean, like it just feels like we have a lot more options available to us. And I almost feel like we're tricked, like we're not taught that in school, that we should be focused on planting and growing food or anything, right?
Yeah, it's very sad. I get like really sad when I hear that. It's just like it's very evident, like it's very like kind of this is the product, you know, when you're going into the shop and all these aisles and everything, it's the product. It's like such a weird, like I've been trying to, I don't know, there was a time when I was actively like getting away from it. You know, we were planting things and that was great. Like we, you know, growing food, and it's just like, you know, when you're traveling, it's a different story. It's you know, you can go to like farmers markets or whatever, but yeah, it's a completely different way of living. That it's just like, it's our fuel, you know, it's our kind of, it's what makes up who we are, like our body and everything. So it's definitely like the frequency that goes into it. Also that exchange you were talking about as well, like the lead up to the exchange, like people not seeing, you know, where the product's coming from, everything like that. Yeah.
Oh, girl, you're just striking a nerve to my core, because like when you were talking earlier, it made me think of about like how our information is like a currency, you know, like people are interested in being invested in us and choosing like what to do with us, right? Like if people, like humans are the kind of people that if they could buy a human, right, and say, okay, you're mine, they probably would, right, and pay you or whatever, trade you for you learn this and this. I want you to drive my car, or I want this person who looks like this to do this. Like to me, that's just like a little bit of insanity. And like that also, I guess that's maybe why like these robots and things come in mind, right? Because like certain people don't want to do those positions, right? Like someone was recently talking to me about like what they were trying to sell me on robots, okay? I'm making jokes, but seriously, they were basically saying like, what if you have like this person who's like in an elderly home, and that like this robot is the one, you know, changing the diapers and feeding the person and being there for that person and stuff like that. So there's like a lot of gray area there. I can't help, like my first attack against that is like a thought about like how babies, if they're not held, they'll die. So like imagine like me as like an old woman or whatever, like even if I can't verbally tell you that I want touch, like I feel like it should be known that like, you know, as I was an infant, I would like to be like, you know, nurtured and taken care of in the same level. Like we could even make jokes of like saying even better, right? Or like whatever, like make the process going home like gentle and delicate. And you know, I'm not saying like take my consciousness away right away, but it creates like a lot of simulations. But particularly this growth in me or whatever got like triggered to the nerve, because you were having this talk earlier about people like hacking into emails, you know, and if no one has anything to hide about who their personal self is, kind of thing. But again, how that information is valuable, and how your brain is valuable to someone, and how someone, if they could, a company or whatever, Apple or whichever corporation is like rich enough or whatever to like have the control to influence your mind, or whoever pays for advertisements, or I'm not really sure how that would fully work, you know, but there are behavioral insight teams or people that know this information on how to change our mind and how to make us like upload information to our brains. I always think of like the Matrix, like where they like teach them kung fu, or they teach you this, and how like there's like an idea or like an agenda for each individual that like this person has the ability to do this with their body and to learn this. So let's upload this into their brain and then utilize them in society as this. And I'm interested in it not being navigated by some type of quantum computer, but more so coming from like, I guess, your authentic self. Like what does Mermaid Electra and her innocent heart, what does she really choose to do? And not about money or whatever. She really wants to spend all of her life, every moment of her life, which is like her most valuable currency, right? Is her life, her breath, her like, which again comes down to the plants, right? Like this big cosmic dance or whatever. I really also love how you access those codes or those frequencies or vibrations, if you would say. I always get like, oh, like I can't even give a word to it. I'm just like, oh, thank God, or just like relief of just like, oh my God, somebody gets it, or like they're speaking my language and things like that. And yes, ma'am, I'm gonna dunk again. I definitely need to dunk, but I definitely want to hear your reply.
The water's getting a bit cold.
We can always we can wrap this up, or you can add hot water, or just I want you to be comfortable.
It's all right. But yeah, something that comes up when you're talking about the robots as well, and I just like noticing my fingers and like my toes getting like wrinkly from being in the water, and it's kind of like this sense of AI and like a sense of like, yeah, the robots we're talking about, it's a bit kind of off topic, but also kind of not at the same time. But it really makes me think about actually like the spirituality of like our beings, like just a simple, you know, wrinkles. I can't remember where I read it, but it's basically like our body's way of, when we're underwater for a certain amount of time, like it's our body's way of making grip like a way for us to grip things. Have you ever heard of that?
I have, but please don't stop talking, because like you're basically back up that memory. Like I was told that like a long time ago, but I haven't spent a lot of intimate thought of thinking about how we adapt when we are like submerged.
Mm-hmm. Well, actually, again, I read this thing that I can't remember where, but it's about when we're embryos and the fact that we actually have a tail when we're an embryo, and we actually have gills when we're an embryo. And I'm pretty sure the gills turn into like our jawbones, like they get embedded into our jawline, and our tail obviously turns into our tailbone, the base of the spine. And it's really like fascinating. It's just I actually don't know the right words to describe it, because this spiritual connection that I have, you know, and you will have as well with our tails, and like this whole everything. There's like the moon cycles, you know, the pools of the tide, all this spiritual stuff. I just want to talk about the tailbone for a little bit, because I actually I can't remember if I broke it or if I really sprained it. I sprained my tailbone when I was younger. I was like on this beach overseas, and it had this like rope swing out of a restaurant. And yeah, just like there's like a pavement thing, like an edge with like bricks or something. And I let go too soon, and yeah, just like fractured my tailbone. And I was talking with my mum about it, and we were overseas at the time, and like it was fine. Like I think it was a couple of weeks where, you know, stuff was a bit difficult, but it healed eventually. I just kind of actually like to get an X-ray of the coccyx, the tailbone, that's what it's called. So I'd love to get X-ray of it and just like, I don't know, just see, like, I'm sure it's like really small, like it's like a, you know, a small thing, but I just I don't know, it feels really spiritual for whatever reason. I think it was shortly after then, like maybe a week after that incident, where like I got my first moon cycle like ever, and there's something going on there. There's like some relevance going on there. I don't know if it was like the impact, or if it's got to be the impact, or just like, I don't know, for whatever reason.
You're making me also not just like the physical impact, but like the impact to the nervous system and the overall body, like as a system. And that's very like fascinating to share. And there's a lot of theories about women's moon cycle and how they like clean up energy fields and things like this. And something else that you ignited inside me is I've recently done this thing called like a somatic experience, which is something that this person Peter Levine pushes. And I haven't read any of his books, but he's a very big advocate in healing actual trauma, like whether it's physical or mental and stuff like that. And this somatic experiencing, I had it with this woman, and I have a lot of issues around my sacrum, like in my like lower back area. And it was taught to me that in the days of like Egypt, they would like burn the bodies, and how the sacrum would be considered most sacred because it would be the last to burn. And I'm not really educated in the anatomy, like does the tailbone, does that come like where does that line up as far as my sacrum goes or whatever? Like does it pass it or things like that? Or like I don't know anything about anatomy. I wonder like where that lines up. And it's definitely like a very like you say sacred.
When you're talking about like sacral, you mean sacral chakra or something else that I'm missing?
Oh, it's called the sacrum. Like it's like almost like a bone in your lower back kind of thing. It's hard to explain. Like the way that it's normally shown to me is like, imagine like someone has like a skeleton, but you're seeing like their hip area, and it's kind of like the center of there. But again, I'm not like a scientist or anything, so I don't really know how to describe that. But I have a lot of difficulty in that part of my body, and kind of like you know, finding that balance of being like human, you could say, and walking and doing all.
I'd be interested to see where it is in the anatomy as well. I got really into anatomy over the past, I don't know, just drawing it as well as an artist, but also the spiritual side as well. I'm not going to go too much into why I got really involved with it. It's a bit of a boo-boo spot, like you would say. But yeah, it's definitely some like DNA, like especially, you know, like nervous system and just, I don't know, there's like a lot of things that are still relevant. Like I have this yeah, one of this like mermaid magic book or something that's like, I can't remember, like Lucy Cavendish or something wrote it. And there's a point in it about DNA and about like the lost, I don't know if it was Atlantis or if it was like another lost island where people would take DNA out of their spine so that they wouldn't have to transform back into like, I don't know, I have to look at it again, but it was like extremely relevant to stuff that was in my life. And just like, I feel like there's a lot that they're not telling us, or a lot that it's like the information is here, but it's like, how do you unlock it? I don't know. It's very like skeleton key kind of like energy. Yeah.
Yeah, so, some of it feels like as if like we have an infinite knowing of it, right? But there's no one else to tell us the story about ourselves. Like we all feel like this connection to everything and kind of can see it expressed in other forms, like how like mathematically it all unwinds. I also really loved how you mentioned a boo-boo spot. And I think that that's also a very interesting common theme to like a lot of like our interest, or like I don't know if that's like projecting, but it seems like a lot of people like become interested in certain things due to their boo-boos, right? Like some people really had injuries from like how they thought or whatever, so they become obsessed with working on that boo-boo by like maybe learning cognitive distortions or, you know, different levels of like healing or whatever. Like I definitely became obsessed with like sound healing and different things like that because of my boo-boos, you know, and like I've grown to know so many things because of my boo-boos and like trying to find a way to just like show them love or like to aid them myself and things like that. And something that I'm finding interesting too is like, why is all there like, or it's almost like this unspoken thing how we're not allowed to tell our own stories or our own testimonies or to like show certain and things like that. There's shame and there's guilt, and it's wrong, like how people don't want to hear about your pain or your sadness, or as soon as you're crying, hush, 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 little baby. Right. Mm-hmm. As much as that can be nurturing and good too, but sometimes being allowed to cry and then seeing why I'm crying, you know, and then like giving what crying for, whether the baby's crying for the nipple or it needs a diaper change or like whatever like the inner child self is calling for. And you're kind of activating like just all those thoughts and like almost like a little bit of curiosity of like getting to know ourselves more, like even though it can be extremely uncomfortable.
Yeah, it can be uncomfortable. Yeah. I want to get a copy of like some of the books you recommended to me. It's definitely on my list to dive into. Yeah.
You're a psychic, you can say, because when you were talking about Atlantis, I have this book that just keeps flashing in my mind's eye. It's actually the color of your dress and white. It's white in that color, and it's the lost city of Atlantis or something like that, and it has some really interesting set in it. And the gentleman Brian, who was on my first episode, he actually met that person who wrote the book, and that's like there's like this infiniteness. And then I'll have to maybe like I'll take random pictures of inside the book, and then you can see if you like it, and then maybe we can get it your way or something like that. And it's pretty unique. I also keep getting called to ask this question, okay, and it's hard to ask it, but I'm going to go ahead and ask it. What's your thoughts on ice baths and being in cold water?
I had that question.
Okay.
Cold water. I have a couple of stories that I could definitely share. I think the first, before I was doing the float tank video work, I forgot my camera, my underwater camera my dad gave to me, like a little diving one. I forgot that, and I went to this hotel to see my friend, and they had like a pool there. And I was like, oh, I'll bring all my stuff. Maybe I can do my first thing. And I was like, really just like loosely hand stitching this fabric together, just like to have some kind of like leg binding. And I was like totally ready to do it. Yeah, I walked to the pool and it said, pool closed from the 1st of June. Oh wait, when does winter start? Yeah, whenever winter starts, the 1st of winter, which it was the first day of winter when I was there. And I was like, you know what, there's been a couple of times where I've been in the water in the middle of winter, just because either I really wanted footage or because I got a kick out of it. I'm not really sure. But it was definitely, yeah, I've heard definitely with the with Wim Hof and stuff like that. I know it's really popular. I love his breathing stuff, but I'm just like also a cold frog in general. So like I'd much prefer like all water to be heated. That would, well, not all of it, but I don't have, some, mermaids like the Magic Crafter is just like known for doing the ice stuff, and like that's the thing. It's really cool. I don't know if I could make that kind of like this hesitancy to do it, but also this like want to do it. Yeah, what's your experience with it?
I don't think I've ever actually done like an ice real bath, like not that I can think of, but I have had like an ice plant bath with a professional shaman where they like break up plant matter inside the bucket, and then like I bring a bag of ice, and then like they do a thing called limpia, which is like a cleanse, like a spiritual cleanse. And I've definitely like you could say like purge or release like pain from my chest from like that experience, from just like basically the nervous system being so shocked by like the cold water, and like kind of almost like bringing up certain feelings that I've pushed down, and kind of like they're coming to stage, you could say, and then I'm like processing and then like able to let go. It was a very, very unique experience. And as a matter of fact, I've done it twice, and I'm interested in doing it like in another country, like with like I've done it in another country, but they didn't use the ice. Like I did it when I was in Colombia, but it's like kind of different. I'd like to do it like in Bali. Like Bali seems to be the place where they're doing like with flowers. Same thing with Peru, I've noticed. Peru might be more of like the medicine I'm looking for, you could say, but I'd have to venture out. Something else that I got inspired about, yeah, is so where I'm from, which originally is Miami in Florida, I have like in Miami Beach, there's a place called Russian Turkish Baths, and it's like a place that has like all these different rooms, and one of them is like a polar bear room, one of them is a rain room, one of them is like a sauna room that has amethyst in it and infrared. Like it has all these different things. So I'm wondering if there's something like that in your country where you can kind of experience all those different atmospheres. It's almost like a bathhouse kind of thing.
I'll have to look into it.
Or maybe you'll open one.
Yeah, it sounds awesome. So there's different, basically what you're saying is there's like different rooms with different types of baths. Like,
and different lights. Like I know you love LEDs, so like they have like different colored lights. Like for them, it's like infrared, so kind of doing like some kind of other type of therapeutic healing stuff, that I'm uneducated in, but supposedly it's good for the skin or something like that, and like the nervous system. But that did come to mind. We can do some homework. I wouldn't mind investigating for you, like letting me know the parameters, how far you're willing to go, like around, you could say the island kind of thing, and like what's calling you. We'd probably use keywords like bathhouse or Turkish baths. I mean, there's also like Korean ones and things like that are kind of like that ethnicity, you could say, like in the name, like stating like, because like those are, I guess, the regions that they have like those more commonly acceptable. I would just love to experience more of those. I've only experienced like one place that's really, really, really like that. But it was really cool. I definitely love to show you that. I think you'd love the polar bear room, like hearing the way that you're talking.
That'd be awesome. There was one like a hot spring experience, whereas like you could stay there, and I was trying to like book it for the full moon like a year back or something. You can do like a nighttime like outside hot spring, like it sounded really
Wow.
nice. Yeah, I didn't do it, but it's this. My mom got me this book, Places That We Swim, and it's just like this hot spring in the middle of nowhere. Like I'd never know that was there. So
I have had the gift of going to Alaska for my first time this year, and that was definitely one of the highlights of the trip. I wasn't able to get footage, but they have like this hot water place, and it's like been there forever, I guess. But what makes the place so cool to me is like there's like frost that forms in your hair, like little icicles. So everyone's hair has like these little fuzzy little like snow cone head type thing. But it looks really cool. Like each person has their own unique hairstyle, right? But then it's like frosting and turning like all white. But the water is like pretty warm, and they do have like kind of changing color lights. And like it wasn't like my favorite water. You could say like it didn't feel really good to the idea of just like staying underwater a long time. There also isn't like anything to hold on to or like things that would make it easy. Like you'd have to like completely exhale and then like use your own body weight to stay down. Plus there's like so many people in the pool kind of thing, so it's like also kind of hard to like really focus to stay under. But like I always like I had that on my bucket list. So like to like realize like I actually accomplished that. Like I wanted to go to a hot spring, like something that was natural hot water outside, and like the idea that it's cold outside. And it was kind of cool that like Alaska somehow, after all these years, like that corporation or whatever you would call that establishment, that place is still in business, like the hot springs. And I don't remember. I wish I could like help them or say like if it's Fairbanks or where it is, but it was definitely like a highlight of the experience, even though it's just like being in water, like basically you're just standing, like, or you can swim, but like you'd have to see it. Like again, I wish I got to take some footage or whatever, but it was just extremely cold, and having to like walk on land or whatever to get to that spot, and just it was just a little bit overwhelming. I am, as far as the cold goes, it's not my favorite. You know what I mean? It kind of changes and conditions you into a different kind of person. But I make my water hot every single time before I get in. And I almost always add Epsom salt and stuff like that. Like I really, really love the benefit of doing the salt cleanse. I have a huge identification with you talk about sometimes you talk about basically like you can say like our ancestral roots, like kind of getting in touch with the elements and kind of just being natural instead of like judging it and calling it like a ritual or whatever, like kind of just being in tune with like the cycles of life, like how the moon changes every 2 days into a different like planetary system kind of thing, so I'm kind of like always hypnotized by you like bringing my mind to that subject that I don't really think about, and sometimes there can be a lot of judgment around it, you can say, because like I've had like a lot of people try to tell me that it's like witchcraft or whatever to like put flower petals in your bath, or that being pagan because you're worshiping earth and things like that. But I've always kind of like seen God in all things, you could say, like God made this and God made this and God made this and God made that. Like Mermaid Electra, like and that this is like all extensions of itself kind of thing.
Yeah, it's super interesting that like the people assuming like it's suddenly witchcraft when it's anything to do with the elements. And not that I have anything against it at all, but I was like I was baptized when I was little. My mom's dad was like I'm pretty sure he was a priest, and I went to like a Christian primary school, and it was really interesting because I remember so I was like baptized Anglican, which was like another set. I don't exactly know how it works, but basically I was like outcast, and like I wasn't allowed to get the body of Christ, and I wasn't allowed to drink the wine at like ceremonies and everything. And so everyone else would line up and they would get, like on Ash Wednesday they get like a little bit of ash on their forehead. So like it was so cute actually when I was like in lunch break or like play break. I would go into the back, like just find a little spot on my own and like crush up the rocks and be like, this is my like little Ash Wednesday. And then I would like do my own little like ritual or ceremony and like I was thinking about it yesterday, like where some of my maybe practices like come from. I think like from like an early age, I felt like, yeah, maybe I had to do things on my own. I had to take it like into my own hands to, you know, make something that I wasn't allowed to be a part of with everyone else. So yeah. Yeah,
Wow.
definitely like some artworks about it. Yeah.
That's like such like touchy territory, right? Like this thing that is supposedly to be like a super reward and such a great thing. And then like we're told like you can't swim with us kind of thing. And I have like extreme identification with that. And I have like this other thought that has been coming up a lot. Like when I was little, I remember like think about it, like if you're good, you can have candy. If you're good, you can have this, you know, but it's not really like the best thing to reward. It's not like a really good reward system. So then like you grow up with like your brain wiring saying like, oh, because I've worked hard, I'm gonna eat this thing that's really gonna make me like not do well like long term. It's not like vital sustenance. Yeah, I mean these are definitely intriguing thoughts. And sometimes like what you were saying earlier, like it can become so easy to become so overwhelmed, you know, like what do we do with this? What, or like what are we, and like where are things going? And part of me also gets kind of like you could say turned off by our storytelling, you know, like this ego, like I'm narrating every little thing when really like that doesn't seem natural, right? We're like we have this device where specifically to try to explain to like Electra, this is why I do this. Like as if she's going to ask, or like it meant like she judges me, like you know what I mean? It's like almost insanity in some levels, like the level that I am a personal narrator of everything, or that my ego, you know, this talker in my head that says, I am this and I am that, and oh, they are this and they are that, but I don't really know anyone or anything, or like, you know what I mean? Like nothing is really fully able to be grasped. Like I can barely even grasp the totality of like my own consciousness and like my own self as an individual, let alone like being able to understand and define like what a rose is, or like what we were saying, like our coccyx, so like what all these specific like things are. And like there's so many things, like so many, you know. So I kind of understand the idolatry and kind of like people like making like a false image of God, like seeing it in an object when it's like so much bigger than just the flower or whatever, that someone is like seeing it only there. And it makes me think of what you were saying before about like when we have that lens on. And the main way that I relate to like you're discussing of having a lens on and looking at things through like that understanding is like if I'm depressed or if I'm angry and I'm like looking through that lens, and then everything looks gloomy or whatever because I'm limited in my perception at the time. Or again, maybe projecting of like, oh, I don't feel good, so she must not feel good, or he must not feel good, or like, oh, he was hurt as a kid, but like I was hurt as a kid, like that shadow work, that unconscious stuff, you know. But obviously sometimes it can be true, but also again, like sometimes I'm questioning like what is the use of this instrument, or how can I use my mind in a way that benefits all, instead of just endlessly talking. And you know, like to me this that gets so draining. Like it makes me want to go in the mountains and like go to Vipassana, a complete silent retreat, and like learn to live a life of like really learning how to like really take care of myself without like stories of like you have to have this and your life needs to look like this and less. I definitely have like subliminal programming like that of trying to check boxes and saying my value or my measurement, my worth, because I don't have this or have that. Like, and I know that it's insane, right? Like that is just a make believe, you know, like, and there's so many like made up things. And basically I'm behaving from this make believe perception, right? Which could be like, oh, they're not going to like me, or I have no place here, or like, I don't belong here, or like made up make believe stories. And maybe sometimes it is true, like, right, like that, like we aren't functioning best in this environment, and that we would be happier if we had a proper support network or proper input, the way that you put it, you know. And I'm tired sometimes of that trial and error of like trying to find the right gears, the right location, and all the things. And honestly, like part of the most stimulation, or the like the best feeling, is like that flow state, I guess, right? Like there is no permanency, and like there's constant like this evolution. But sometimes like growing can be like so painful and uncomfortable. And then like your death stages you're talking about, right? Like where this part of you dies, right? Like you're like one way that I know, I don't mean to judge or paint a picture, but it's something that I'm interpreting from you, and feel free to say that this isn't how I identify myself, but it's like in one part in your past, like you could say that there was almost like abuse around you, like getting to know like the spiritual realm, and now like now you're like it's opposite. You're just like, I have infinite curiosity for this spiritual realm, and I have like this unique soul that isn't like anybody else, and I would like to be that person. And I can't help but get high off of that, you could say, because like when you see someone like really in their flow being themselves, it's like a safety sign of like, oh my god, I can peacock too, or I can play, I can oh, or like how about this, like if you show a version of yourself, right, it's like, oh, I'm gonna go find my mermaid teal dress, or right, like play, like, oh wow, I'm inspired by that, this is my version of that. And like I think that's important, right? Like if you didn't have that unique touch, or if we all didn't be ourselves or whatever, like this place would be kind of boring, you know what I mean? And it's fun to kind of like try on different dresses, you could say, right, and see like what fits us and like what makes us feel good and what versions of ourselves comes on stage. And there's just so many like factors involved with existing in itself, and I feel like sometimes I'm thinking about it all too much, and I'm not like letting myself be, and to the point where I'm not even sure how to be, because it's like part of me wants to express to like people please, you could say, and then or just like have value, or it's like, and I know that those are brainwashing belief systems that like I have to self-sacrifice or be someone that I'm not in order to make a paycheck, or just nonsense things of just trying to find where I belong instead of
I definitely resonate with what you're saying there, like that. Like if you had told me 3 years ago even like to wear a dress, I would probably like swear at you. Like I wouldn't be happy with that. I would never wear a dress, and I would never wear color, and I was really I don't know if like is transgressive even the right word. Like I became very kind of like anti a lot of things, and like very pushed back, and I guess like that really served me well for a really good time in my life, and I'm sure it'll serve me again like another time in my life. But I really I get what you're saying with the, you have to, you know, sometimes you feel like you have to present a certain way in order to be you know, whether it's I have to present this way in order to, you know, attract this clientele or this customer or like this group of people. Like target audience to me has been like super confusing like in some stages, because it's like I don't want to compartmentalize myself. Like I don't want to be like I have a target audience, because I'd like to interact with everyone. And I think like it's so cool just what I've experienced bringing my tail places, like going to the beach, bringing, you know, going for a swim in my tail. Like I would never talk to those people on the beach, like if I didn't have my tail. And it's like the interactions that you get from it, like the kids coming up to you, like the parents talking to you, just basically like everyone's curious, and it's like a really, I don't know, a really special kind of, it kind of also makes me feel at the same time like I put off doing it, because like I also don't want to have those interactions. Like I also just want to swim like by myself, and you know, even like the camera sometimes, like setting up all my equipment, setting up like the recording stuff really also what's the word, really sometimes it does stop me. It's like, oh, this has to be a whole big thing, it has to be like a whole, you know, captured thing all the time. And like, but really it's just like the love of doing it. It's like, you know, I really have to just kind of remind myself like, I haven't been for a swim like in the ocean, even though I'm like so close to the ocean in so long, because it's like I have to charge my camera. Oh my god, but
dude, I've said this so many times to people, like anyone that knows that I do this work, like that I can tell them, like sometimes I'm taking a bath and I'm like, oh my god, am I supposed to be working right now? Like, should I be filming? Like, where is the boundary of my personal life? Yes, dude, like, so we need to, like, I want to keep doing this, because I've been wanting to do this too, like where I just like go underwater
And thank you. Like, if you would just do it more, like, I would be reminded that I'm allowed and that you're not going to think it's weird that we're like occasionally dunking. And then sometimes, like, I'm worried too, like, I want to be able to hear you. And if I go underwater, I won't be able to hear you all the time. But I also, like, just, yeah, I just want to be in the water, I guess. So if we could, like, find a way to, like, do this where it's, like, I don't know, comfortable and, like, kind of normal. Like, maybe it's kind of sucks that, like, we can't just be in a giant pool together. Like,
I know this bike is like a little bit smaller than I anticipated. It's like the whole entire conference room out there is just like, I don't need that. I just want the big bath.
oh man, yeah, I can totally relate about that. We just want like an upgraded bathtub, like, or a bigger place to swim. Something that I have grown super value in since moving to like this cold. Like, I'm from Florida, so it's like normally hot, and I'm adapting to this really cold weather. And I just like have sometimes super longings of just like, I wish there was like a place, like a public place I could go and just be in like a pool, like a, or like just my own giant bathtub. Exactly. On like more fruitfully, like it's called open water, like where I can like swim and like completely express yourself, right? Like you have like way more room to swim than I do.
I can stretch out a little bit. Yeah. There we go.
At you and tell you, like, if I am ever meeting you in person, I will love so much to be your videographer and your photographer. Oh my god, yes.
That would be fun, dude. That would be so good. Oh, there was something else that I wanted to touch on. I was listening to a little bit of one of your last testimonies in the tub, and you touched on like the energy or how the water actually physically changes with the energy that's around it. And like I always knew this, like, but it was a really click moment because like when I moved cities so I could be closer to the water. And I moved into this house that had a swimming pool. And I was like, this is amazing. Like, it had like these LED lights as well. Like at nighttime, I'm just like, yeah, this is beautiful, amazing. Like, I'm gonna do so many things here. Like, this is, the person that I'm gonna be when I'm in this house. And like, but the odd thing was just like I was there for about, I think it was like, I noticed that the first week I was there, I'm just like, why haven't I gotten in the pool yet? Like, why haven't I just jumped in the pool? Like, that was the only reason I moved in here. If there was no pool, I would not be here. Like, and there was always something stopping me from just going in, whether it was like feeling like I had to set my camera up, or whether it was what I eventually figured out was that the energy in the house and like the energy like around like the people who were living in the house was very, I don't know, I almost kind of want to say stagnant. It made the water feel totally stagnant, and it was like this fake, like these rocks were around and it was just fake, and it was like these trees that had not been like naturally, created there. It was like man-made there, and I just felt, man, it's fake, it's fake, it's fake, just like and I felt like, I don't want to be trapped. I don't want to be like captive in this tiny backyard pool. Like, if I live somewhere that doesn't even have a pool or a bath, like, does it really matter? Like, if it's making me go to the ocean more, like,
Girl, remember how you were talking to me? I remember you wanted to talk about my tank. Like, what you were just saying is the exact reason why I chose to buy a giant aquarium for $1,000 off of Craigslist, dude. Like, because I realized that everyone couldn't swim, and God bless you. I realized I realized like not everyone could swim, and I thought about like people being able to see like the art of being underwater and like the grace and like also the reenactment of the real life mermaid and all of those things. It was like that was the whole idea behind the fish tank, is like I will get to travel and do places and show this experience. And honestly, like, to be super transparent about like what that business is like there are so many things just like you just might not think about, like the clarity of the water, where you're able to get the water. I had to have I've had fire departments fill my tank up before, but then you have to like adjust the water because like sometimes there's like chemicals and horrible things, and you got to get the pH levels, otherwise your eyes are going to be on fire. The temperature of the water, if like you're getting really, really cold water, and having heaters, and sometimes like heaters can take hours and hours, like, you know, to do if you have like the cheapy ones, you could say, or whatever. And then like the professional job of lugging the thing around. It's super heavy. Always have to have like, you know, a guy or other people that can help lift and move. And then something else that became a thing was like building a professional stand, like so that like viewership could happen. But it ended up being like a big job. I have like one event that like really like was shocking for me. And I have wrote a letter to you could say an email to the St. Augustine, Florida Ripley's, believe it or not. And it was like the month of October. And I said, hey, you missed 100% of all the shots you don't take. I would absolutely love to like work for you guys. Like, is there any way this can happen? And it ended up being like a really amazing experience, mainly for me, you could say, because the event was around what they called like Oddtober. Like it was like being really weird. And like I really identified as like, you know, a specimen there, kind of like being a part of this facility. And then I gotta tell you the best part. I always love to tell this part. So they let me come there with my pet possum. I had a pet possum named Spooky Tree Flower at the time, and she let me bring the possum, and I got to educate all of these kids on like the animal and get to touch it, the animal, you know, and show them like I could put my hand in her mouth and she would like like a dog, like didn't want to bite. And it was just like super amazing because like I always was moved by like people being like you could say, I want to be mean and say a joke that people are brainwashed because they think that these animals are mean and evil. But like basically the shock from coming to being really afraid to being like, oh, this is cool. And like watching that transformation. Like I've had people tell me to my face how they like used to eat them and like purposely kick them with motorcycles. And like I've heard like a really like lot of bad stories. And basically like once they had the opportunity to actually meet the animal like from a different perspective, you know, like that was really touching. So the fact that like I was welcomed in that way there, you know, and I have to be super honest, like I have learned best like where I was like slacking in my business or slamming as slam dunking like in bad ways by like doing the jobs, you know, of like, oh my God, like for example, when I was working for Ripley's, I had no stand, like I was on the ground. You know what I mean? And that's cool and all for kids being able to come up and stick their hand in the tank and spit in the tank and do all the things. But like just for visuals, like the tank stand was like one of the best investments I made, to be honest. I eventually sold everything because it just became so overwhelming to just do that. And my thought was like, if I ever want to do that again, I'm just going to hire someone to just rent me my tank back, you know, or like, let's do this event together. And just like that. And I've seen people like, I don't know if you've seen it, but there's like this giant tank that's in Dubai. Like it's like a travel portable mermaid tank. And like the girls, they swim like this, like across the tank. I would definitely love like some open water to be able to do stuff like that, like just for fun. And honestly, it feels like it could be almost like a competition energy of like a bunch of like girls like just swimming fast underwater. And there's like a lot of play and like infinite in this instead of it being like super, you could say catty or siren-y or like that part of it. But it's definitely like a whole industry that's just available. And I don't know, like I feel like there's still a lot of avenues like I can still explore in that. But also like you, I've also kind of like you could say outcasted myself, but also again like also being like you could say like the missing link or the out of place mermaid as well, like kind of just being very different, such as like me. I think I told you about how like when I was living at Wolf's Museum of Mystery, I decided to invest in my like newest tail with all the fins to be like a she creature to kind of do what you're doing. And like I wanted to have fangs and I wanted to be like the first like really scary professional mermaid. And like I did like kind of cool things. Like one time they put snakes inside the tank. I don't know how good that really was. I don't know how good that is for the snake, but it was kind of cool. And like I thought it was gonna be scarier, but it was actually kind of interesting, but also a little scary, you know, because like, is the snake scared? Is it gonna bite me? Is it gonna try to climb up? Like infinite questions, but it ended up going rather well. And then like I did like the scaleras thing. Do you know what those are? Like the all black context. Yeah. So I played around with that, but then like I quickly learned that wasn't really what I wanted to do. So like it's nice to see like other people that are like playing with that who actually like that's their authentic self kind of thing, you know, and like it's not a gimmick. So it's been fun.
Yeah.
I keep going.
It's very interesting, yeah, because to be honest, like whenever I was first getting into, well, just, you know, I don't know, it's been like a lifelong forever thing. Like my mum made me a tail when I was like 5 or something. So it's been like amazing. But yeah, I remember sitting down, I was like on Google goth mermaids. Like I was definitely, you know, like definitely a goth teenager. So I was like goth mermaid. That's probably the first like avenue which I saw you was like through that the snake one.
Really?
That's
My first stuff you saw was my gothic mermaid. Was it the one in the graveyard? Was it in water or out of water?
No, it was the one with the fangs and the snake that you're talking about. Yeah. But yeah, it's interesting because like I feel like my I went off social media for like many years for many reasons, like very antisocial, like dropped out of school, like didn't want anything to do with people, and just I suppose it's interesting like going like with a purpose, coming back to social media like with a purpose to like share, you know, my creative journey and things like that. But it's like everything that I'm posting is colorful, and I got so stressed about it at one point because I'm just like, this is not like it feels like a completely different aspect of myself that I'm comfortable with it, but it's just like there's just like some people that just, you know, the goth thing is their whole thing, and that's amazing too. It looks so good, but it's just like this weird in between thing for me, like this friction of just like I want to be completely like hot pink for once in my life, like for the first time ever. I'm like fluorescent pink, but I miss like incorporating like my origins, I guess, the origins of like a sea witch.
Wow, there's like so many different things that are just like a little bit of like me having to control my impulses kind of thing. One thing that I can remember that was ignited in me was when you were like kind of describing how you were like, I wanted to make jokes almost like how you were like a siren in real life, because like you were like kind of like in the water, like you were trying to like you were like not in the surface or whatever, and like I don't know, I'm not I don't think I'm really good at like translating that idea, but it felt like it made sense, like your persona. Oh, and I also got this other feeling like about giving yourself permission to like let those parts, the shadow, come out to play, that like you can have like different personas, if you will. I mean, it can still be Electra. One of my favorite things, you might get a kick out of this story. So I would tell kids that like my tail changes color depending on what fish I eat.
Mm-hmm.
So like maybe you can have something like, oh, I have this crystal ball, and when I blow into it, then suddenly I am this persona and I can express this side of the sheet. Or maybe you start different series of like videos that are like different characters, like the siren and things like that. And I'm sorry, but like I don't know if I'm projecting again, but I definitely have ideas of you definitely being hired for professional movies like drowning scenes or mermaid scenes, or easily being the siren. And honestly, the siren role can be played above water. Like when I'm looking at your face, you know, even though you don't have a tail on, like sometimes when you get really into stuff, you know, you kind of show like this version of yourself that's like, wow, she's super siren-y, and I'm like hypnotized. And it's like, it's not like a perverted way as much as like I'm interested and I'm curious, and like it's like positive energy, you know, so you kind of like want to, like you could say, eat more of that positive energy, because it's not just like a take experience with you, you know, you kind of bring a lot to the table. And it's pretty interesting. We are getting up to about 2 hours, and I'm sure your water's getting cold, and I know mine is, but if you'd like to say anything else or cover anything, or maybe we can just wait for another episode. But I do want to say that. And then the other thing I was going to get at too is a nerdy question again. I'm sorry to provoke, but are you planning on doing any office visits on your channel and going live, or doing discussions like this yourself? Okay, cool. I was just wondering if you're going to do that on your YouTube, or if you're going to play.
I definitely have ideas about interacting more with my audience, like on a one-on-one level, whether that's like vlog videos or just like talking to the camera, just like as a journal kind of thing as well. So I'm really looking forward to that. Just like the last thing about you said, when we come on land, and like beneath the surface siren, it's definitely something I'd like to talk about in another episode. There's so many films that come to mind to reference, like, and so much to pick apart, like symbolically, that I'd love to go into that another time with you. Yeah, for sure.
Beautiful. Maybe we can like write them down or have like scheduled episodes. I always tell you, like, I wish we could do like Mermaid Monday or Water Wednesday or things like that, but it's like kind of funny because in your country it's literally a different day. So I'm sure there's still like a lot to play for that. We'll have to schedule and plan another time. Another thing that came to mind is if like, what if you took your writings on paper and then you like read the things, like the concepts that you wanted to share and things like that, because then you'd have time to like really put your time into like the concepts that you'd like to share. And if not on my stream, maybe on your own channel or something like that, and then I can watch that and then we can like talk about it further, or I'll leave that that ball in your court kind of thing.
Cool. Yeah. Awesome. There's so much that we covered today. It was so good. I feel like this could go anywhere.
Yeah, I think this honestly could really, really like never ever end. I feel like part of like us being together means like every like 5 minutes we need like immersion time.
I know. I just feel like we went so long.
A few moments. Say again?
I just feel like we went so long without like being in the water for a second. I was just like super dry. I'm just like, why am I just sitting here when I could be?
Yeah. Maybe we can just be here like quietly in the water and just be ourselves for just a few minutes before we close. That sound cool?
Yeah, sounds good.
Cool. Girl, I'm so grateful for this. Like I'm like too stimulated. Like this is too fun.
Same.
I'm gonna have to find a way to break the barrier so that like, there won't be so many waters between us. I'd really, really love to like find a way to gather in person.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I feel like there's a lot we can do digitally at the same time, and then there's like so much more of it is just the physical realm is just like, it would be awesome. It would be really great.
I have a couple ideas I can discuss with you off camera of like how maybe we could fly into this one other place and then meet there kind of thing. Like, since maybe we can't directly go into each other's places, maybe there's like a middle place somewhere, but that don't have the same rules that each of our places is having right now. And maybe also these rules won't be in place like forever. I hope.
I hope so too. Yeah.
Yes. Well, I hope you have a really, really wonderful night. And I'm so thankful of you like coming here. And yes, I'm still interested in working on being a better listener and like also like doing these streams better. I mean, there's a lot of different places I can see myself like wanting to improve. And I'm so grateful for you like having wiggle room, you could say, to like do that. And also know that like I'm willing to come on your channel or any digital co-creation. I'm very much so willing to be a part of. And I don't feel like there's like really any censorship when it comes to that. And yeah, if you have anything else you'd like to say before we end the call, I just wanted to say thank you above all else.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you, Trina. Also, like, really, I don't know, I just started to, I never really would have done, I don't know, it's not that I have anything against lives, but like coming on here with you in this, like, such a sacred space is like, I don't know, I just have such an excitement for a live stream, and just like the opportunity is just being, I want to do like a little closing off with my singing bowl to kind of like clear the space. Yeah.
I love this about you.
I want to go to the beach like with my tail on and just sit there and just like have this really powerful video. So we'll see if
I have to share a poem with you. It's by Thich Nhat Hanh, I think is how you say the name. He says, body, speech, and mind in perfect oneness. I send my heart along with the sound of this bell. May the hearers awaken from forgetfulness and transcend the sea of anxiety and sorrow.
beautiful.
It's very touching. I love you.
I love you, Terry. Thank you so much. I'm gonna close off before my laptop dies and like put some more hot water in the bath and just like
yes. Feel free. Take some extra after the movie footage.
Yeah, I did some behind the scenes and like
I'm just playing around. I don't want to tell you what to do. Excuse my ego. I do hope you have a good time. And again, thanks for doing this and being part of my world.
Thank you, Trina. It's been amazing.